Can I be heard? Just as I thought, I'm over here talking to myself. Is there sound? Is there sound? Just as I thought. So you guys didn't hear. I'm gonna have to cut that part out later. I don't know why. Yeah, I couldn't be heard. Let me know if I could be heard now. It wasn't you guys. It was on this side. I'm getting back into the that joint is wild. Y'all know I started reading and everything, right? I should have bike checked before I started reading. So, anywho, to recap, as I was having a whole conversation with myself, we're gonna pick up on chapter 4. Now you can hear me. Sorry about that. You're gonna pick up on chapter 4. I just had the whole intro. We're gonna pick up on chapter 4. The first part of this is that the effects of what happened then is actually in real time. So we're reading Priscilla, who this is her biography, Priscilla Gibson's biography, written by Cynthia Banks. This is Tyrese's mother. And so in real time, she has passed on, but in real time, her son is having, an experience that in his estimation, I happened to see the video before he went into child support court, and he was like, well, probably they're going to arrest him, and he doesn't understand, right? He doesn't understand why this is happening. He put all of the precautions in place. Let me see if I can find that video. He put everything that needed to be in place, and he don't understand what's wrong with these women and why they won't just leave him alone. As I'm continuing to read this book, I'm like, you know what? It may be beyond him to a certain degree. It may be what he's doing, but it may be something, as I keep saying, that's coming from another place. So they took him and held him on $78,000 because he's behind in the child support, right? And so that's what's going on that end. We're going to pick up on his mother's end, and hopefully this whole story can meet in the middle somewhere, right? And so let me go ahead and read again because, hey, I started, but you could not hear me. All right. And again, this topic is heavy, you know what I mean? And some people are not able to move in and out of it. Her life is not all, as she wrote it, all every day. It was heavy, and there's a lot of abuse in there, but there's spaces within there that you can see some light. And in doing so, when you're going through stuff like this, it is my experience that if you just keep hammering away at the heaviness, people oftentimes don't see the light at the end. So hopefully that helps as I move through this. Oh wow, I didn't even realize that one, Queen T. Let me know if I can still be heard, because I'm gonna continue now. I don't know why YouTube is giving it's tripping right now. But let's get to the reading. I didn't even see that. Like before this point, I wasn't really following the individual. I just thought that the story was interested and could use some exploring. So she is currently in love with Pooky. Priscilla is. And she ran away from her home because her mother is abusive. And her mother beat her while she was pregnant because she didn't want to take the fake prenatal pills. And she ran to Pooky's mother's house, Miss Grace, in the story. And she took her in and told her she could stay there while she's pregnant. Miss Grace looks like she's looking forward to being a mother, a grandmother. So now she wakes up the next morning, because this is the first time she expresses that she had her own bed, and she wakes up the next morning. So let's go. As a matter of fact, before I start, give me 1 second. Okay. All right, let's go. So we are on chapter 4. I must have been really tired because I didn't want to wake up until just before noon. Or she didn't wake up until just before noon. She walked into the kitchen. Pooky was sitting at the table with his mother. She could tell by the look on his face He hated the idea of her living in his house because Pookie's this only child who's entitled, right? And it's basically like, what are you doing here? And the responsibility of his actions facing him, some people can't deal with that. Grown adults can't do it that much less teenagers sometimes. I had hoped that because I was having his child, he would feel differently about me and his attitude would change. I was determined to remain hopeful. The smell of fresh brewed coffee scented the air. Good morning, I said as I sat down to join Pookie and his mother at the table. Hello, he grumbled as he got up and walked over to the kitchen cabinet. 1 second. He opened the cabinet and pulled out a box of Cocoa Puff cereal. Then he opened the refrigerator and took out the milk. After pouring milk on his cereal, he sat down at the opposite end of the table near his mother. I had to make sure what was going on in my background here. And so Pookie is not glad. Good morning, Priscilla, Miss Grace said before offering me a small breakfast of eggs and toast. The morning sickness had passed, and I was able to eat anything I wanted without feeling the repercussions of it later. Irritated at how comfortable I seemed to be in his house, my Pookie, yo, the fact that she won't call him his name, she keep talking, calling him Pookie is everything. Took his bowl of cereal down in his room to finish. Like, again, Pookie, you are doing the absolute most. My eyes followed him as he got up and left. Miss Grace poured me a glass of orange juice and didn't make a comment about Pookie's behavior. She leaned back down in her chair and started a new conversation. I felt it was important enough for her to know how I really felt about Pookie. A lady, what do you want her to go talk to her son? Be like, Miss, tell Pookie how much I love him. I felt it was important enough. Okay. So I told her how much I loved him, see, same thing, and how I hoped that we could be a family. We are family. Me and Pookie and the baby. She wanted her, Pookie, and the baby to be family, but Pookie wasn't trying to hear that. Priscilla, please don't think that just because you're having, so here come Miss Grace, I try to burst the bubble now, having my son's baby, that he's going to be with you, even if you love him, she said with sincerity. Yeah, why did I just start singing? We are family. He'll play at being a father to the baby. Welcome to those who've just joined us, Miss Wildberry. Welcome to the conversation. But he's going to do what he wants to do. But I love him, I said. Well, that's my version of what she said. When the baby comes, he's going to love me and the baby. I felt it in my heart. He might be mad now, but I know Pookie is going to take care of us. And again, this is also part of the consequences of doing adult like things, which they were doing when they were supposed to be in school, and not being ready. Not even adults oftentimes are ready, right? And so her assumption would be logical if they went in, or if he pursued her for the right reasons, which he did not. It was strictly lust and lower levels, that right, self-pleasing. And so now the thought that you can love the child and not love the person who brought forth the child, in Priscilla's 14-year-old mind, she's 14 at this time, it's incomprehensible. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why wouldn't he love everything, right? Let's see here. Miss Grace just looked at me. Well, I'm happy to be a grandmother, she said as she got up to get more coffee. Miss Grace, what kind of things am I going to need when the baby is born? Won't I need a bassinet or something for the baby to sleep in, I asked. Yes, and clothes and bottles and bibs and diapers and lots of other things, she answered, just as Pookie came back up the stairs from his room. Hold on. Miss Grace and I continued to talk about the baby and what we would need. Pookie didn't say a word. He just slammed cabinet doors, or he practiced in, and made loud sighing noises. We both ignored him. We discussed me going to the doctor soon and my need to apply for welfare, she says. Miss Grace said she would take me to the welfare office sometime next week. A few days later, Miss Grace took me to apply for welfare. She had a car, so it didn't take us long to get downtown to St. Louis to the welfare office. Priscilla says she was nervous and she'd never been in a welfare office before. However, she did remember the welfare people coming to their house because, her mom Dukes was collecting. You understand? The caseworker assigned to review her application explained to her that because she was a minor, she had to come back with her biological mother. Trouble, no problems. She told her that her mother would have to sign an affidavit stating that she was pregnant minor and that she would be responsible for her. It was the only way that they could receive assistance. So they go another roadblock there for Priscilla, because Mom Dukes. How many people think that Mom Dukes is going to willingly sign? After the affidavit is signed, you'll receive a welfare check in your mother's name. The caseworker continued. I lowered my head and clamped my hands around my eyes. Tears trickled down her face because she knew that it would be a cold day. You understand? In Hades. Leah, welcome to the conversation. Before her mother voluntarily did anything. I can't forget that, I said, sounding disappointed. If mother gets her check, I won't see any of it. Seeing my distress, the caseworker said, there is some good news. We can give you a Medicaid card. That doesn't require your mother's consent. You can at least go to the doctor. So Priscilla nodded her head to let her know she understood. She was disappointed about the welfare check, but at least she could finally go to the doctor and find out when her baby was to be born. Yo, sis is 14 years old, son. Dropped out of school. Well, she 8th, 9th grade. And wow. Okay. Miss Grace, who had been sitting quietly the entire time, rubbed her on her back and told her not to worry. She said she would make sure the baby had everything it needed, and they left and went home. Eventually, welcome to those who just joined us. Yes, indeed. I'm here. Eventually, Pooky's attitude changed and he started talking to her. When she first moved in, he avoided her as much as possible in the house, but eventually he realized that he had access to almost her ex around the clock. So Pooky really didn't really care for he just cared like, oh snap, now you live in my house. So basically Pooky wanted to feel her up at all times. So he became nicer. He hadn't said anything to her in weeks. And then one day when his mother wasn't home, he came in her room. Pooky. Ain't you supposed to be downstairs eating your Cocoa Puffs? Pooky. He started talking to her about how he couldn't wait to be a father and how much he really liked her. That's called breadcrumbing, right? He claimed to be mad because he thought that she got pregnant on purpose. You know what? I'm going to just remember at this time in the storyline, they're children. She's definitely a child. He's like 2 years older than her, but bruh. Once you go into you're going in with intent, whether or not sometimes people are like, I can't believe, you know what? Let me not get sidetracked. I know that you didn't try to trap me, so I'm not mad anymore. And I want us to be together. Pooky is running game. We can be a family. We are family. Pooky over here trying to be a family. Okay, Pooky. He continued. He hugged and even rubbed her stomach. A little taken by his sudden change of attitude, she didn't give a rebuttal. She smiled and acted as though no hard times had passed between us. And if you missed the hard times, you're going to have to go to the prior episodes because the hard times were, my son is going to be a basketball star like his daddy. Pooky continued, acting proud and sticking his chest out. How you know it's a boy? I said, feeling ecstatic that he was talking to me again. I just know, he said with certainty. Then he leaned over and kissed her. Pooky, Kapinazia, I had been waiting for months to be kissed by him again. I felt anxiety in my body. What is this? The passionate kiss led to harder things. It led to harder things. Something that Pooky wanted and something that she missed. Lady, you should let me know. From that day forward, whenever Miss Grace was at home, Pooky would always come in at the little picnic room. Pooky. Ah, boy. I'm not going to quarrel tonight till I come in. Ah, boy. I didn't feel that he was sending me any mixed signals, but I ignored it because I loved him. No, she said she did feel. My apologies. Of course, when you first came there, he didn't want to talk to you. Now all of a sudden, he daddy daycare. You know what I mean? Sometimes he would act like he didn't care about me in front of people by being rude and inconsiderate. And when we were alone, he acted as though I was the only girl in the world for him. Pookie's playing games, sis. I was confused, but it didn't matter. When the baby gets here, I knew we were going to get married. Maybe he just said that to get what he wanted. Maybe. This is page 30. I was so grateful that Miss Grace let me live in her house. Yeah, were you? Because Pookie's over here doing the most when Mom Dukes is working. Pookie should be go looking for our work. I miss my brother Marcus, but I didn't miss living in our cruddy old house with mean mama. Miss Grace was nice and her house was so beautiful. I felt I could stay there forever. Sis, I don't think, but okay. Where's about me there? During the day while Miss Grace was at work and Pookie was at school, I made sure the house was dusted and clean when they got home. I wanted to show my appreciation for all their kindness. Occasionally, I would cook something. It took a few weeks, but I finally got my Medicaid card in the mail. Miss Grace took me to the doctor. She had done some research on OB doctors, the ones that accepted Medicaid, and felt she had found a competent one to deliver her first grandchild. The doctor told me I was 6 months pregnant and her baby was to be born in March. She felt relieved to finally know when the baby was going to be born, that we both were doing okay despite all the drama surrounding the pregnancy, like the mother beating her running in the snow with no shoes. But imagine being pregnant for 6 months and you don't know how far along you are, and you're 14. Sis. The doctor even gave her some real prenatal, and she said real too, because you know them fake ones. Mom Dukes was trying to give her prenatal vitamins that I was not afraid to take. Her stomach was getting really big and the baby was moving around a lot. It felt funny, like her stomach was growling or something was tickling her. She couldn't wait to have her baby. She hadn't seen her mother since the night she ran away. Miss Grace had been gracious enough to go to her house to tell the mother where she was. Oh boy, why'd she do that? I didn't know she had done that until one night while we were having dinner. We somehow got on the subject of my mother. Miss Grace told me that when she went to see my mother told her she was glad I was someone else's problem and not hers. We see a lot of conversation in present day. This would be Tyrese's mother, and we see Tyrese being very prideful and proud of his presence as a father, right? So it seems that he's cognizant of what happened in the past and that he's trying to make strides to not be the absentee father, trying to make strides to be present and to be, I think he said, his children know him by his two daughters, know him by his name. I think I'm going to play a little bit of this. Let me play a little bit of it here. Let me play a little bit of it here so that it can come into view. But come to find out, I'm going to just give a little spoiler alert as I read ahead. This particular Pookie, should I give a spoiler alert? No, I shouldn't give a spoiler alert. Let me keep going real quick. So the baby is going to be born in March. And so I hadn't seen my mother since the night. No, boom, boom, boom. She was someone else's problem. It hurt my feelings to hear that. And seeing that I cry over everything, I began to cry. So y'all calling him Cry Reese. He got it from his mama. His mama says she cried over everything. She's just emotional like that. She began to cry. Miss Grace apologized and commented that she was unsure why she told me in the first place. Mother never came to see me. The lady don't care. It's sad, but yeah, not that I expected her to. Marcus heard Miss Grace tell my mother where I was, so he came to visit me often. I was happy to see him because I had missed him a lot. And for those who don't know, Marcus was her brother. I was worried about him too. Mother beat him sometimes too, but Marcus was smart. He stayed in school as much as possible and as long as possible and participated in as many activities as he could. The less he was home, the better. The less contact he had with mother, the better. So Marcus went the other way. He both came from abuse, but Marcus decided, you know what? Let me just stay away by going towards education, right? It says, after New Year, Pookie was a lot nicer to me in public. Oh boy. We even went on to out a few times together and took walks in the neighborhood. He anticipated the arrival of the baby. We talked about the baby a lot and things the baby needed. We even decided on the baby's name together. We chose Randolph the third for a boy and Valencia for a girl. And it made me happy planning things with Pookie. And again, I think they wrote it in an autobiographical novel type style. So, they loosely changed the names of the people. You know what I mean? Except for her name. So it shot me then on. I was ready to be a mother. I was going to give my baby lots of love, love that I never received, she said, as a mother. She planned to be a better mother than her mother ever was. March seemed to come around very quickly. Her stomach was huge and the baby had been pressing on her pelvic bone, causing a lot of discomfort. No matter what position she tried to lay in, she could not get comfortable. One Sunday afternoon, she had trouble resting because her back hurt so badly and she was extremely uncomfortable. Pookie and his mother had gone to visit his sick grandmother, so she was at the house alone. Because she was in so much pain, she worried that something was wrong. Miss Grace hadn't left her a number to call, and she didn't know how to get in touch with her. The only thing she knew how to do was walk to her mother's house. Oh gosh, not to mother's house, and hope she would help her. She hadn't seen her since the night she ran away, and that was months ago. She was desperate, so she wished she knew how to get in touch with Miss Grace and Pookie. Can we almost guess what's going to happen when sis goes to mother's house? Leah says Tyrese said he owed 10 in child support and maybe going to jail. Yeah, he owed 10,000 a month. A month. According to what it is, it's 78,000 or something like this. He owes. Let's see here. So fortunately, mother was home. Or maybe unfortunately. What you doing here? She asked as I stood on the front porch wondering if she was going to let me in. Mother looked like she had aged 20 years since the last time I saw her. She had looked tired and worn down. I told her I didn't feel good and that my back hurt really bad, more than usual, and Miss Grace and Pookie weren't home. And I didn't know what to do. One would imagine that mother would help her, right? Yo behind probably in labor, she said coldly. No, man, that woman need prayer. She needs prayer. She needs some holy water. What in the world? Who treats their own child like this, bro? Mother pushed the screen door open and turned to lock the front door. Without saying another word to her, she stepped off the porch and got in her friend's car that was idling at the curb, then drove off. She left her standing, dumbfounded, on the porch. Wow. Stunned at mother's reaction and still unsure what to do, she walked next door to Monica's house, only to discover that she had moved. So Monica's the lady that she could have depended on, but Monica's no longer there. More and more scared and confused in pain and still not knowing what was wrong or what she should do, she saw a man walking in her direction and asking for bus fare to the hospital. The man reached in his blue jean pocket and counted out some change to her without asking any questions. Wow. She waited at the bus stop with pain that hit in every 3 to 5 minute intervals. Yep, you in contractions, lady. Finally, the bus came and she rode the 20-minute bus ride to the county hospital. Valencia Duncan was born later that night on March the 3rd. She weighed 5.5 pounds, according to the nurses. It was an easy vaginal delivery because her labor only lasted 2.5 hours. That's a good labor for a first go-round. 2.5 hours, or maybe she was already in labor, which she was, and she didn't realize it. So by the time she got there, it moved kind of quickly. She went through the delivery scared and alone and wondered if Pookie and Miss Grace knew where she was. Yeah, the mama is cold. That's not cold. That's Arctic. She's not cold, sis. This is Arctic, okay? Arctic. What in the world? The next morning, she lay in the hospital bed thinking about life with her baby girl. She hoped she would love her as much as the baby would love her as much as she loved her. She wanted to see her again, but the nurses hadn't brought her back to the room. She hadn't seen her since last night. This must have been when they, yep, exactly. There's still good people in the world. There's still good people in the world. And we pray that we are one of them, right? Because you never know. You never know. Where am I? So yeah, this must have been the time when they used to take the little people them picnic and then don't bring them back and probably switch them up at the hospital. Who knows? She hadn't seen the baby since last night. Emotions had never felt before began to consume her. She felt anxious and overwhelmed and hoped that the feelings would go away. Priscilla Duncan, I heard a voice call out. Wiping morning sleep from her eyes, she turned over to see who had called her name. Two white women were standing in the doorway of the hospital room with identification badges clipped to their dresses. One held a notebook in her arms and the other was carrying a briefcase. The woman with the notebook approached her and stretched out her hand to shake mine. She introduced herself as a social worker in the St. Louis Department of Human Services. Trouble knowing her. The woman with the briefcase shook her hand and introduced herself as a representative of St. Francis Adoption Agency, St. Louis, Missouri. Her eyes swayed from the ID badge to the other as she attempted to read them. Adoption agency? I questioned. Are you here to take her baby? Tears swelled up in her eyes. Priscilla, your mother, not the mother who jumped in the car and told her, yo, behind probably been labor, says, your mother came to their office yesterday and said that you were giving your baby up for adoption. The one with the briefcase said, we got a call this morning that you had delivered a baby, so they came right over. The woman sat her black leather briefcase at the edge of her bed and opened it and pulled out some papers. If you'll sign here. Now, how they're gonna come unrepresented? If the mother called, why isn't she there now? How are you coming to a 14-year-old without legal representation? Y'all wouldn't have gave her a welfare check, but you over here saying that her mother called. Where's the mother? Why isn't she there? Right? So it says, if you'll just sign here. And that's how people get people who are scared. She already just said she was alone. The Pooky ain't there. Pooky mama ain't there. Miss Grace. Nobody is there. And y'all rolling up these two adults on a 14-year-old who just gave birth to try to compel her to sign some papers. Come on. This is the stuff that has happened to people in times past. If you'll just sign here, she said, pointing to a line on the paper. She ain't read it. She don't know what it means. Nothing. Then they can collect the baby and place her in a home that can better care for her. They have a family waiting now for her right now. The woman continued with a smile on her face. Seriously? Priscilla, I'm not giving my baby up for adoption. My mother lied. She lied. She lied. I didn't tell her I was giving my baby up for adoption. I screamed. I started crying hysterically, she says. She turned her back to the women and buried her face in her pillow and sobbed very loudly. One of the women walked to the other side of the bed. You can't care for a baby at your age. You're a child yourself. She's right, Priscilla. It's in your best interest to sign the papers and let us take the baby, I heard the other woman say. I didn't say a word. I just buried my face deeper and deeper in the pillow and continued sobbing. The woman pleaded for some time for me to listen to them, but I couldn't uncover my face or stop crying. Eventually, the women stopped talking. I heard footsteps and the opening and closing of the door. The woman left the room and they never saw them again. Because what do we see here? They need your compliance. Even if she signed that paper in ignorance and she didn't know the totality of what it meant, if she put her signature on it, they got them. So she knew enough, maybe in her just stubbornness and refusal to sign, that if she doesn't sign, then I don't agree. You know what I mean? Wow, boy. She stayed in the hospital a week. It was fun having people make such a fuss over her. A far change from being fussed at. Pooky and his mother figured out where she was and came to visit the day after she delivered the baby. She didn't bother telling them about the woman from the adoption agency that had come that very morning. Miss Grace couldn't stop talking about her new granddaughter. I guess Pookie didn't get the basketball player son. She held her entire hospital visit. Pookie was disappointed that he missed the birth of his daughter, and he was wrong about the sex of the baby. You know what I'm saying? He was like, oh, I didn't get my basketball player. It was a proud moment for me to see him emotional over Valencia. I found out from Miss Grace that when they got home last Sunday, they wondered where I was. You think? Like, where did that little 14-year-old pregnant girl go? Worried, they asked my mother if she had seen or knew where I was. Mother denied ever seeing me. Yes, man. It's not only sometimes somebody don't want to help you. That's their business. But if they don't want nobody else to help you either, this is the stuff people like. We need to heal from trauma, but what is the trauma? Like, name it. Name it. If you can't name it and identify it and unpack it and understand the implications of it, it's really just lip service. Trauma. What type of trauma? What type? So this is her spelling it out. And I understand for some people it's like, oh my goodness, it's too much. But can you heal from that which you are not willing to identify? You have to put a name to it. You have to understand what feelings it evoked. But because she's kind of telling us this made her feel abandoned, and this made her feel isolated, and this made her feel unloved. These are the incidents that happen, and these are the feelings that attach. And oftentimes we continue to move forward with the incidents and the feelings. And then these feelings become the lens by which we see everything else in our life. Yeah, the mama is, use the term loosely. Use the term loosely. So where are we here? So the mother denied ever seeing her. They called around to local hospitals until they found her. Wow. Unfortunately, she had already delivered. She was disappointed that she went through the delivery by herself, but she was glad the baby was healthy. The day that she was to leave the hospital, she was scared and feeling depressed. I thought I knew how to take care of a baby since I had taken care of my brothers and sisters, but suddenly I felt unsure if I could care for my baby. Because this little baby is little and small, and you're wondering, do you know what you're doing? How can you help the child? Understandable. This is stuff that mothers go through, big and small, old and young, right? But suddenly I felt unsure if I could take care of my baby. She said she felt different. She was nervous and scared and overwhelmed and not ready to leave the hospital. She was worried she was going to make mistakes. Valencia was so tiny. She asked one of the nurses to show her how to put the cloth diapers on the baby and how she was supposed to make baby formula because she didn't want to breastfeed. And so this would have been in the 70s, right? And now you have a lot of initiatives coming back around to promote breastfeeding, because at this time, now it became in vogue for women not to breastfeed, right? To use formula instead. But now, some 50 years later, we see the long reaching effects of introducing these very young, brand new babies to formula, and how it affects their digestion, their development, and all other things throughout their life, right? But at this time, when this young child should have been breastfeeding her child, she didn't want to. She wanted to know how to make baby formula. Breastfeeding wasn't even a consideration because she thought it would make her feel weird. The nurse showed her how to do all the things she was worried about doing. She was very patient with her. She sent her home with encouraging words and told her she was convinced she would do just fine. You're going to be a great mother, she said. I hope so, I mumbled to myself. So that's the end of chapter 4, everybody. That's the 4 that's available for free on Google Books so that you can read it at your own discretion. But as I said, the book came in. And as I read, I was like, oh, I might have to read a few more chapters because I want to know this. Does Pooky marry Priscilla? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. So far, I have been reading it along the way. Yeah, let's take a look a little bit about what her son is experiencing. We see some 40 years later and see if we see any parallels, right? So let me go ahead and open this up here. Hold on one second. YouTube, they don't like when you are. Let's just hear a little bit of what he is saying. Mother is off the chain. Thank goodness for people like Miss Grace. Although Miss Grace concessions kind of allow her son Pookie, even though she's very nice, sometimes the concessions that you give creates this type of character, much like what Pookie has become, right? So let me know if you can hear that. We don't always get to make the connections real time. Let me know if you can hear.
Wrong. I don't care what she doing, what she asking for, what she trying to get in alimony, trying to crack the prenup, trying to get this for child support. I don't give a fuck how wrong she is. Most women are always going to see things through the lens of women. So I feel like we're in a real place right now where I could not be more proud of the women that have been vocal and outspoken about all of this goofy shit that my ex is doing and still doing. As a matter of fact, both of my ex.
I mean, and I'm gonna stop it along the way. It goes for both. The men are gonna be coming from, unless you make a concerted effort to be objective, you're gonna come from the perspective that you have experienced or that you have knowledge of, right? Much like his mother is writing from her perspective, right? So he said a truism, but it's across the board. It's not just most women, it's people in general are gonna come from their perspective, unless again you are trying to get both sides. That's what a judge is supposed to do. You're supposed to get one side and then the other side and then try to see objectively what the truth is.
I know y'all are quick to say playing victim, gaslighting, manipulation, narcissist. They're going to put all kind of shit on you to make sure that whatever they decide to believe about you is what they want to believe because what? I was born a man. I got it. No one's.
It flipped now because James Brown was like, it's a man's world. He was singing it's a man's world. But you know what it is just it's the psychology that has made its way to the pop psychology, to the forefront. And again, a lot of these coaches and people and counselors, a lot of this information is being thrown around and misused, right? And so the labeling of everybody a narcissist and everybody codependent and everybody toxic, it's too much. So I think he's kind of speaking to that, but let's continue.
After me. There's no Crips and Bloods after me. There's nobody in corporate America after me. There's nobody at none of these movie studios after me. There's none of these record labels after me. I got baby mama drama. You get in a relationship.
And what did his mama have? Baby daddy drama, right? He's like, okay, it's not in any of these spaces that I'm experiencing. And one of the ways you can see where the original sin, for lack of a better word, comes from is the area. And he's doing it. I don't know if he knows, but he's doing it without knowing he's doing it. When you look at your family and you look at something that continues to appear, something that is not only just what is what I'm saying here? Not only just dealing with you, but maybe it's a cycle that runs throughout your family. It's a pattern. What he's doing is realizing, okay, it's not in any of these areas. It's in the relationship space and in the space of the man to the woman and the woman to the man. And that is also what his mother, she hasn't gone fully into it yet, but his grandmother had issues with the grandfather, and then his mother internalized that, and she had all these issues in her relationships, and now he's identifying that he's having all these issues in his relationship
with an entertainer who happens to be a public figure or somebody who's a real estate tycoon or somebody in the tech space or somebody who has an actual profitable business. Now this is what's crazy. Since I've been so public about all the shit that I've been dealing with, you would not, I have lost count of how many women who have walked up to me who are the high net worth individuals, the ones with all the money and the success, talking about how their ex-husband is getting alimony and how the husband
Okay, so sometimes, right, we don't want to be alone, especially when you're going through some madness. So he's looking to associate with other people to say, see, it's not just me. Because of course, when you're going through something, you're trying to make sense of it. And if you see somebody else going through something similar, you maybe identify it's because you have money. But there are plenty of people who have money who are also not going through this, right? So is it because you have the money that you're going through this, or is it something else? Because in reality, you keep picking the people that's doing this to you. So what are you looking for? What are you attracting to yourself that allows this experience to continue to happen in your life?
Ben is getting child support payments, and the husband is getting all that he's doing freeloading. The husband got the house. Doesn't really happen that often, but
Didn't it happen to Mary J. Blige with the husband? Although I don't follow it all the way, I think the husband is getting uh, alimony or support or something like that. So usually it's the person, as he's saying, who has more resources.
you were born a man, you go into a courtroom and you understand clearly that there is a preset menu that says you were born a man, fuck you.
Oh, excuse me.
That's what the preset menu says. Now, y'all,
And it has flipped. The pendulum has flipped to the other side. It has slipped because that used to be, if you were a woman, you weren't even allowed in the courtroom. You weren't even allowed to own land. You weren't even allowed to operate your own business. You were not a entity in the sight of the court. You had to have male representation. So now the pendulum has swung to the other side, that automatically when you show up, you are not valued. I think it's interesting hearing how disempowered one feels. Anybody, any gender, right? That the minute you show up, you're the problem before anything else happens. I think it's an overcorrection of where this country, I'm just speaking for this country specifically, used to be. It's an overcorrection, right? And this is why we're seeing it so extreme on the other side. What? She says he's working. She's working to pay him. Oh yeah, Mary J. Blige. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been laughing, smiling, having fun, doing my interviews, my vibrations and my energy has been up. And I've been over here silently and quietly in a certain capacity fighting these attacks. Why does Samantha's lawyers just request all of my bank statements? Why are they sending screenshots of my IMDb page, which stands for Internet Movie Database? They're looking up all the movies that I just did and asking for money and what's in this account and how much money did you make for Voltron Travel and how many albums have you sold and this and that. Like, leave me the fuck alone, man.
Tyrese, stop cursing all over my channel, fam. But yes, why I think I'm going to read a few more chapters, because when I do read the chapters and you see what the mother said or describes her relationship with Tyrese's father, it's gonna make a lot more sense. I did read ahead a little bit. I didn't read the whole thing, but I was like, oh my goodness. So he's like, and money and money and give me money. You're gonna hear that same sentiment happen some 40 years prior.
And I did a prenuptial agreement for a reason. The prenuptial agreement spells out everything that she get and was supposed to get. Why are we now 4 years and 3 law firms into this woman still coming after me? And why have they, the lawyers representing her, knowing that she's with a celebrity, a public figure, a high net worth individual, why have they confirmed on record that they've only got $5,000 from her and they've been representing her for 4 years? Why is this so? I'll tell you why.
Why is he? Yo, he's bugging. He over here. Why is this so? I'll tell you why. Yo, he gonna need to take a break. Yo, that transition was. Why is this so? I'll tell you why. Yeah. So basically, he's a payday for them, right? But let's continue.
Because lawyers, not all, but certain lawyers out here will look at a celebrity and a high net worth individual as a pot of gold. and they will milk the shit out of you. And she's sitting over there letting them do it. Do you know how many people have went through a divorce and never went to court? You know how many people got issues with their baby mama, baby daddy, and never went to court? And they're just being amicable and respectful. You cheated, you lied, you hurt me, you this, you that, you moved on, you got remarried again, you this, you that. But I'm not about to take you to court. I'm not doing that to the father of my child. I'm not this and I'm not that. But the moment that you put a little celebrity sizzle on that thing, the moment that that net worth is a little different.
I've been taking Groons for about 4 to 5 days consistently.
I want to fast forward here because
all kind of intentions come out. Now, let me make sure I say this, because it's like, take care of them kids, motherfucker. I've never not taken care of my kids. Let me say it again.
You be cursing too much, sir. Let me go ahead and skip here forward. So let me let him talk.
I've never not taken care of my kids.
Double negative. Never not. Double negative.
As a matter of fact, as much as I travel, as much as I got going on, as much as I'm moving, I'm going to tell y'all the biggest blessing ever. Thank you, Jesus. My 17-year-old Shayla has never called me Tyrese.
So you see him trying to make the correction, trying to fix the error from the generation before. And usually when the person is the generation or the cycle breaker, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. You are going to experience turbulence. He's currently experiencing turbulence. But we see here that he positions his efforts to be that father and to show up as his pride and joy, which he should. If this is this is the goal that he set out for, to make sure that his children are not fatherless, then he's accomplished that. But I guess it came with a whole lot of other things. Let me come to the comment section. Yes, that's another thing. This is another reason why I'm talking about it, Leah, because he should be talking to the therapist or the counselor, but he is talking to the public. Well, since he's talking to the public, it gives the public an opportunity to learn, because maybe some people, he has resources. He could possibly go to a therapist. I'm not sure why. Maybe he wants to present it as a cautionary tale. Maybe, I don't know why he comes to the public in this capacity. But since he has, it has been a beautiful learning lesson, because look, I didn't even know his mama wrote a book. And it's a perfect opportunity for X to explore. Jasmine says they got to take accountability for the types of they're attracted to. That I agree with that as well. Just like Leah said, unevenly yoked. Who are you attracting? Who are you bringing into your sphere? What are they there for? If the injury came from, and sometimes not all, it's complex, right? But the men who achieve status, those who go outside to look for someone who doesn't look like their auntie, someone who don't look like their cousin, someone who don't look like your granny, someone who doesn't look, there's something sometimes, let me get Umar on you, that they're moving away from, right? And that when they see this person, they don't see all of the pain, they don't see all of the experiences, they don't see all of the hurt. So some men, I ain't saying, oh, he was hurt by feminine principles in his life and masculine principles in his life. And sometimes when they have the offspring, and the offspring doesn't look like them, then it's not a constant reminder of where they're coming from. Leah says he's trying to care for his children, but he's basically saying that the ex-wife wants the marriage money and not the marriage. She's crying out so much. Poor thing. One would say, and the ex-wife, I think this last one, I saw that she was a counselor or therapist or something of that nature. And it's like, well gone, Buana. Yeah, man, they're back a little bit, So we're reading this narrative, this book by Priscilla Gibson, which is Tyrese's mother. And we are listening to her son. And, doing what we do, connecting the dots. I had to take a little break, but I'm back now. And so he's crying again. We just read his mother. She cried a lot. And usually whatever state you're in, especially during pregnancy, it translates. So he's not just keeping it inside. The mother kept it inside. And I think that's important to note. The mother didn't tell a lot of people these things. A lot of people didn't know what happened to her. And she kept it inside, and then she self-medicated with alcohol. Now, according to Tyrese, he doesn't do alcohol. He doesn't do drugs. So where do all of these emotions go? Instead of keeping them inside, he expresses them. So I'm not mad at him for expressing them, because if he didn't, then he would possibly be finding another way to soothe his pain. And this is how he, I guess, feels better by letting it out. Now, why isn't he sharing it with a therapist? I don't know that part. But let's continue to listen a little bit.
My 5-year-old has never called me Tyrese. You know who I am in this house? Dad. And when they refer to me, when they not with me, they say, that's my father. I am dad. And you know why I'm dad? Not because of what I bought them, not because of the clothes, not because of the square footage of the house, not because of the cars in the driveway, and definitely not because of this fake jewelry I wear.
If you don't stop with the fake jewelry?
I'm a father. Because that exchange between your son or your daughter is nothing that could be purchased.
That part
it's
is
something that they feel about you.
That's true.
As a father, because you have a presence in their life.
That part is true.
All this shit about money, arguing back and forth, that's for me and my ex to deal with. But when it comes to my kids, my babies, they've never wanted for anything. But I can't stop their mothers from coming after me for more. My mama, rest in peace. Mom.
He brought up the mother, and he always brings up the mother. And this is why we're reading the mother's book, because we're trying to understand. Sometimes people bring up bits and pieces of the mama, and we're like, okay, let me see the mama. So we looking and reading and honoring the mother's story.
Mama didn't raise no fool. And my mama didn't raise anybody that would just lay down and take whatever somebody wants to dump on me. Now, it's funny how I get along with everybody. You don't see me doing no interview. Even when it came to little random ass shit I was dealing with in the past with Tank and Genuine. Man, come on, man. That's like laughable. We do.
Okay, we don't know nothing about that, Tyrese.
We have some concerts coming up, by the way.
See? He was like, I'm stressing, plug. Leah says he said he didn't see the divorce coming. He claims he didn't do anything wrong in the marriage. How did he not see the divorce coming? I don't know. Again, sometimes they would have had to go into counseling, because did they go to counseling before they got married? I don't know. Sometimes people are complacent and they don't necessarily, if you're focused or if you're hyper focused on being the father, maybe in other places within the relationship, you are maybe not up to par. And for you, you may feel like you're showing up. For the other person, not so much. Did they communicate effectively? Did she just get up and leave? That's what the storyline is. I don't know. They would need to go to a counselor, or well, I guess it's too late now, but yeah. Or is this coming from somewhere else?
BBD, Silk, and Tevin Campbell. So y'all make sure y'all get y'all tickets to support Real R&B. That's if they don't lock me up in the morning.
Hello, everyone.
This was two days ago, and they did lock him up in the morning, according to reports. So I'm just gonna leave that right there. That much like his mother, he's going through a lot of things in his own way, and he just has his own way. Everybody has their own ways of dealing with things. Let me put the link in the box. Let me know your thoughts. If you missed the other episodes of the first 3 portions of the book, they were a little more heavier, so feel free to check that out. And I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna read a few more chapters to see what becomes of Pooky, okay, and the baby that they had, right? And the 14 going 15-year-old young mother. So his mother was definitely a teenage mom. So if that's set, I put the link in the box. Let me know your thoughts. If not, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think he needs to pay $70-something thousand to come out of jail, but damn, I forgot figure that out. Damn, I forgot figure that out. Any thoughts? Quinty says, please continue. Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. So we're going to be on chapter 5. We are going to be on chapter 5. I'm not going to go ahead and tell y'all any more about Pooky. We're going to have to figure it out. But make sure to press like and share the video. Again, thank everybody for tuning in. And continue to read, continue to grow, continue to share, and continue to show love, man. We'll talk again. Everybody have a blessed night.